The character of Oppenheimer in Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer is one of my favorite characters in cinema, and I find him, like the title of this video may or may not suggest, inspiring, incredibly relatable, and moving. And really, this movie means a whole lot to me, especially because of the world that we live in. Oppenheimer shows us that the world and humanity isn't black or white. He shows us that the world is rather gray. He shows us that you can be everything and at the same time be nothing at all. It's really so funny because sometimes the best characters are the ones that mirror actual real-life human beings. Now let's think about this for a second. Literally almost everything that defines Oppenheimer's life in the film has this little thing that I love so much: contradiction. Let's first start with the most obvious one, which is his creation of the atomic bomb. It's a weapon of ultimate destruction that was initially created to deter World War II, or at least to lessen the casualties that the war was originally going to bring forth to the world. That's ironic though. I mean, trying to save the world by creating the weapon that can destroy it. But see, even in this is another contradiction, which is that Oppenheimer is a scientist. He doesn't make political or diplomatic statements. He merely pursues the truth in the name of scientific discovery, although we both know that wasn't entirely true, and that's not what he really ended up doing the rest of his life after creating the atomic bomb. Then there is the other elephant in the room, which is how he surrounded himself with former communists and how he had communist ideas himself. But he still loved the United States, and he fought to create the weapon that would ultimately give the US the win in World War II. Of course, initially, he advocated for the creation and the science behind the bomb to save the Jews. But it then eventually became about saving lives for both the US and possibly Japan. Now, of course, what followed World War II was the Cold War as we know it, but Oppenheimer always had the idea of eliminating the nuclear arms race that the US facilitated. He wanted to collaborate with scientists all over the world in the name of science and the pursuit of truth. I think I've already said that, but it's true. However, once everything went down and his security clearance was questioned, he still maintained his cool, maintained his allegiance and love to his country, even though it was his own country that took away what he loved the most: science. And then, let's not forget, the same country proceeds to award him and praise him in the end. Contradiction. I mean, it's what literally Einstein said at the very end of the movie. They praise you at the very end, really just to make themselves feel better, just so everyone is sort of pardoned, because everyone had blood on their hands, even Japan. Now, Oppenheimer was definitely not Einstein, ultimately, because he never denounced his desire to be a part of his native country. But then again, the US wasn't trying to kill you if you were Jewish. Now, Oppenheimer also had two partners, Jean and Catherine, portrayed in the film by Florence Pugh and Emily Blunt. And even both of these partners are almost direct contradictions and represent the duality of what Oppenheimer is. Jean is less stable, less consistent as a partner, kind of reckless, and very hard to figure out. She's kind of an enigma in Oppenheimer's life, which is very enticing to someone who is a scientist. But she was also the physical and lustful fantasy for Oppenheimer. Catherine, on the other hand, is more stable, more direct, raw, less sensual and fluid though, but she had kids with Oppenheimer, but she was also much more explosive and cunning. And she definitely put him in his place, and even spoke for him. She was, ultimately, fiercely loyal, which is kind of a turn-on. And now all these things are things that I would attribute to Oppenheimer. And finally, there's a couple things that really moved me about the film, and things that really serve as the cherry on top for me. First is when Oppenheimer and Catherine speak about matter, and how the world is just empty space with floating molecules trying so hard to embrace each other, but they end up bouncing apart from each other at the same time. And Oppenheimer and Catherine literally put their hands together and, join them like this. And it really makes me think about how it's almost as if science itself is telling us that the world is a giant contradiction. You know, opposites attract and all that sort of shit. Things are not really solid, yet not really apart. And then there is one of the first sections in the film where some people, including members of Oppenheimer's future family, direct sort of future family, his grandkids, have issue with. This would be the part where he tries to poison his teacher with an apple. And I'll say this is yet another instance where we see the contradiction of Oppenheimer. An apple can symbolize the Garden of Eden, the cardinal sin, knowledge, power, consciousness, self-awareness. And Oppenheimer committing the sin of attempted murder with the apple of Eden is quite interesting. But what's more is that before the apple is eaten by the wrong person, a fellow scientist, Oppenheimer quickly takes it away. The whole ordeal that could have happened is abandoned, but that doesn't take away his sin. Then Oppenheimer creates the atomic bomb, and the creation of the bomb is sort of the consequence for Oppenheimer's original sin. The bomb is the very thing that holds the key to life itself, only because it can destroy it. And you need great knowledge and self-awareness, an apple, to create a weapon like that. And really the bomb becomes an apple of Eden on its own when it's created and used. It's a cycle. Oppenheimer in the film is a flawed human being. We know that from his attempt to murder, his affair, and we can go as far as to say his unwillingness to stand up for himself against abuse and defamation from his own country. But, and this is where it gets interesting, he is also God and Satan / the snake himself. I mean, he holds the power to destroy the world because of an apple that he poisoned. See, Oppenheimer's always had a taste for knowledge and power. That's why he bit the apple by poisoning it and then creating the atomic bomb because of it. But of course, when we talk about the original sin and the apple, we tend to also ask, well, if God is the creator of the universe, then did he create the Garden of Eden with the poisoned apple in the middle? Did he essentially create evil? And did he know the outcome of his creations? Is God all-knowing and all-powerful? If the answer to those questions is a resounding yes, then God and Satan are one. And so is Oppenheimer. But Oppenheimer is still a mortal man who has become death, the destroyer of worlds.